What if I told you at extreme dilution, ions behave completely independently? Right? It sounds a little crazy if you're used to thinking about chemical bonds and attractions, but let's dive straight into this explainer because we are going to unlock a concept that is going to make electrochemistry suddenly feel completely logical. If you've been staring at textbook pages about conductivity and feeling just, well, a bit overwhelmed by it all, don't worry. Today, we're focusing on Kohlrausch's law of independent migration of ions, and we're going to break it down concept first, so no rote memorization here. We're going to understand the actual physical reality of what's happening inside that beaker.
To really get this, I want you to picture something. Imagine ions moving completely freely without any traffic jams whatsoever. Think of a busy highway during rush hour, right? Cars are packed in, constantly slowing each other down. But what if you took almost all of those cars off the road? The few remaining cars could drive at their absolute maximum speed, completely ignoring whatever else is out there. Well, in a solution, ions act the exact same way when you add enough water.
And this idea, this brilliant little concept, is captured perfectly in Kohlrausch's law. Friedrich Kohlrausch spent years measuring how well different solutions conduct electricity. And what he realized was that if you dilute a solution enough, this predictable, honestly kind of beautiful pattern just emerges.
So here's our roadmap to mastering this today. First, we'll look at ions at infinite dilution, then Kohlrausch's law explained, solving for weak electrolytes, degree of dissociation calculations, reading the conductivity graph, and finally the real-world impact and a quick recap. Let's get to it. Okay, Section 1, ions at infinite dilution, understanding the physical reality. Before we even peek at a formula, we absolutely have to grasp what's physically happening in the water. Electrochemistry is all about current being carried by ions. But how they carry that current, that changes entirely depending on their environment. So, I want you to ask yourself, what happens at high concentration? What happens when you pack way too many ions into a tiny space? Well, positive and negative ions get crowded together. And since opposite charges attract, they actually pull on one another. A positive cation trying to move toward a negative electrode is literally being dragged backward by the negative anions surrounding it. It's exactly like trying to sprint through an incredibly crowded, packed hallway. At high concentration, ions interact and they severely slow down. But at infinite dilution, which by the way simply means the concentration is approaching zero because you've added so much solvent, they are incredibly far apart. There's zero interaction. The hallway is entirely empty. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that when they don't bump into each other, the solution reaches its absolute maximum conductivity. Since there are no opposing electrical poles from neighboring ions, every single ion is cruising at its peak velocity, contributing the maximum it possibly can to the total electrical current.
Moving on to Section 2, Kohlrausch's law explained, the simple rule of independent ions. Now that we've got the physical vibe of an infinitely dilute solution down, the math is going to be a breeze.
You might be wondering why ions act independently? Simply because infinite dilution removes all those interactions. Each ion is absolutely free to contribute its own personal maximum to the total current. It honestly does not matter if a sodium ion was originally paired up with a chloride ion or a nitrate ion. Once that dilution becomes infinite, the sodium ion completely forgets its old partner. It just does its own thing.
Now, what's really cool about this is how simple the math actually is. You literally just add the independent pieces together. Kohlrausch's law states that the limiting molar conductivity of an electrolyte, that's the big lambda with the degree symbol representing infinite dilution, is just the sum of the individual contributions of the cation and the anion. Small lambda plus small lambda minus. That's it. No complex calculus, just straightforward, simple addition.
Section 3, solving for weak electrolytes. This is the ultimate chemistry cheat code. Seriously, why do we care about this little addition rule? Because it solves one of the most frustrating, massive headaches in laboratory electrochemistry. See, here's the problem. Strong electrolytes fully break apart into ions, so measuring their maximum conductivity is super easy. But weak electrolytes, like acetic acid, they are incredibly stubborn. They are only partially ionized. Even if you dilute them with absolute buckets of water, they never fully dissociate. This makes measuring their infinite dilution value directly in a lab basically impossible. The conductivity just drops too low to measure accurately before they ever manage to fully separate. But wait, using Kohlrausch's law, we can calculate the limiting molar conductivity of acetic acid by just adding and subtracting the parts of strong electrolytes that we already know. Think of it like a set of algebraic building blocks. We want the pieces for acetic acid, right? Hydrogen and acetate. So, step 1, we take a strong acid with hydrogen, like HCl. That's super easy to measure. Step 2, we add a strong salt with acetate, like sodium acetate, also easily measurable. But look at what we just did. We've got these extra sodium and chloride ions floating around in our math that we absolutely do not want. So step 3, we simply subtract the strong electrolyte NaCl. Just like a puzzle, the extra sodium and chloride ions completely cancel out. And aha! Now this actually makes sense. By just adding and subtracting the known, easily measured maximum conductivities of those strong electrolytes, we mathematically isolate the exact maximum conductivity for our weak electrolyte. We literally found the limiting molar conductivity for acetic acid without ever having to measure it directly. How cool is that?
All right, section 4, degree of dissociation calculations, finding out how much actually broke apart. Once we have that absolute maximum theoretical value, we unlock the next level, which is calculating exactly what fraction of our weak electrolyte actually bothered to break apart into ions at a normal, everyday concentration.
It's just a simple fraction. It shows what conductivity you have right now compared to your absolute maximum potential. Alpha represents this degree of dissociation. You just take your measured molar conductivity at your current concentration, that's the regular lambda m, and you divide it by the Kohlrausch absolute maximum we just calculated, the lambda m naught. It's exactly like calculating a test score, what you got divided by the total possible points.
And once you have that alpha, you plug it straight into this formula to find your dissociation constant, Ka, for weak electrolytes. You just take your concentration, C, multiply it by your alpha squared, and divide by 1 minus alpha. Thanks to Kohlrausch's cheat code, we have a perfectly clear mathematical pathway from a basic lab conductivity measurement straight to a fundamental equilibrium constant.
Section 5, reading the conductivity graph. Visualizing the data progression. Let's look at how all this math actually translates into the classic graph you are 100% going to see on your exams. Seeing this visually is the key to locking it in. Okay, as you add more water and lower the concentration, the molar conductivity steadily goes up. Why? Because, as we discussed, you're increasing the physical distance between the ions. You're systematically clearing out that highway traffic jam. So, as concentration approaches 0, the molar conductivity hits its absolute ceiling, its maximum value. On a graph where the x-axis is concentration and the y-axis is molar conductivity, you'll see the line curve upward as you move from right to left, heading towards 0 concentration. For strong electrolytes, it's this gentle, straight line that easily hits the y-axis. You can literally just take a ruler and extend it. But for weak electrolytes, it's a steep curve shooting wildly upward. It gets closer and closer to that Kohlrausch maximum limit, but it practically runs parallel to the y-axis and never actually touches it. That is visually exactly why we needed our little mathematical cheat code to find that intercept. Section 6, real-world impact and recap. Why this science actually matters. We've done the theory, we've crushed the math, but how does this apply outside the 4 walls of a classroom?
This definitely isn't just theory on a chalkboard. Measuring these independent ions is absolutely crucial for everything from massive industrial manufacturing down to advanced chemical research. Whether it's designing highly efficient batteries, purifying drinking water, analyzing biological fluids in a hospital, or scaling up chemical synthesis, understanding exactly how ions conduct electricity at various dilutions lets chemical engineers optimize processes and invent entirely new materials. It's truly foundational stuff. So let's do a super quick recap. Infinite dilution means ions are far enough apart to behave entirely independently. Kohlrausch's formula proves that the total maximum conductivity is quite simply the sum of the individual ion contributions. And because of that super simple additive rule, it becomes the ultimate tool for calculating the properties of weak electrolytes that we otherwise couldn't measure directly. Boom! Now you understand exactly how ions behave at infinite dilution. You have completely mastered this concept, but the journey through electrochemistry definitely continues. You know how ions act when they are totally free, but what happens when we trap them and we forcefully hit them with powerful electrical currents? Can we control that chaos to synthesize entirely new materials? Well, that brings us to our next crucial topic, electrolysis and Faraday's laws. See you in the next explainer.